Hi, my name is Lane McCall, and today I want to talk to you guys about the Flashpoint R2 system after 1 year of use. Okay, so a little bit about how I use these lights, alright? So I am mostly a portrait modeling photographer, but from time to time I do, like various event work, whether it be a music concert or a press conference or etc., right? Now, that is actually the reason why I got the TTL versions. I don't use it all that often, but whenever I do some of those press conference setups, the TTLs come in super handy. And even though this system is already a few years old, the TTL is still very, very accurate. Coming from the policy buff Einsteins, I admit I was a little hesitant to go with these systems since I'm primarily a portrait and modeling photographer, and the only reason being was because of the color temperature inconsistency. You see, with the policy buff Einsteins, they say that they have a plus or minus 50-degree temperature across all power outputs. These were at 250, therefore if you're shooting one light that has a very bright output and one that has a very dim, you could get some mismatch, color output inside of your image. Once I bought this system, I went ahead and kept my Einsteins for a couple more weeks just so that I can fully try out the capabilities of this system before I sold the policy buffs, right? So I went ahead and brought a couple models through my little home studio, and we just did some just for fun practice test shots just so that I can put this system through the ringer and see if it was on par with what I needed. Now, let me tell you, I was 100% blown away by this system, mostly because of the simplicity, but also the color output inconsistency isn't as big of a deal as what I thought it was. I thought with having, one light at full power and another light at like 1/16 the power, you'd be able to see a huge drastic difference, and it's really just not there. I mean, if you really just pixel peep and you're really just like trying to find it, eventually you kind of will, but it's not that big of a deal on my level of photography. Kind of like what I was saying a second ago, this system is so simple across the board. The buttons that are on the side of the Explorer 600 are all the buttons that you need readily at your fingertips, and they're there. The menu navigation was super easy and quick to get used to, and even the zoom speedlight system have all of the buttons on the back that you need access to. Now, the R2 transmitter is actually a very simple setup as well, but I find the menu navigation in there to be a little bit quirky just because their menu's like numbered and it's just a little different. However, across the board, I give this system a 2 thumbs up for simplicity. Coming from the policy buff system, I was like, this is light years ahead. Now, beyond just the portrait stuff, I also do sports photography from time to time, mostly in the BMX and motocross scene. Now, I took two of the Explorer 600s with me over to a trip to France where I shot a motocross event of some, really fast guys, right? And the power output that I had, I was shooting 1:1 in high-speed sync at 1/8,000th of a second. And I also had the standard reflector that they come with mounted on each one. And I was just blown away at how I was able to, I'm not going to say like overpower the sun because it was really bright that day, but there was definitely enough light to fill in those shadows to make the image really pleasing to the eye. Now, at the time that I bought this system, it was $750 for the entire kit for the TTL version. So I bought 2 of those, 2 of the zoom speed lights with the battery, and that's what we're going to talk about next, the battery life. Once again, I was blown away. I think you get around like 500 shots with the battery in the Explorer, and I think somewhere around 200, 250 in the zoom. Don't quote me on those numbers, but I'm going to tell you guys, I have never drained the battery all the way to 0%. Even whenever I went from that trip from France at the motocross shoot, I still had over half a battery life on both of my Explorer 600s. And even on these zoom speed lights, I've never gone below 25%, and this is shooting 1:1, guys, for a full day. So outside of just the batteries, you can actually see that I have the AC adapter on this 600, right? Now, I actually briefly owned the Profoto B1 on location kit, and I returned it pretty quick because there is no way of hooking that light up to an AC adapter. Now, the thing is I really enjoy having a studio that has 0 cables and whatnot, but especially during the spring and summer months, I do a lot of in-studio and then transitioning to on-location work, and I need those batteries charged. Now, I could go and buy, 6, 8 of these batteries, But in all honesty, I'd rather just have this AC adapter kit permanently mounted on my monolights until I'm going into an on-location photo shoot. And Profoto didn't offer that. This system did at less than a third of the cost. If you all are interested in seeing an in-depth review about the entire R2 system, I made a review about a year ago that you guys can check out right up here. Now, going into the quirks, there's still some stuff that I really dislike about this system, but they're by no means deal breakers. They're just quirks, things that I'm not a fan of. And I'm going to go ahead and start with the clicking mechanism. Whenever I have my monolight up here on a stand and I want to adjust, my light modifier, it goes like click, 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 and I can't get very accurate angles. And I understand why they made that mechanism. It's so that the heavier modifiers will stay put and be a lot more solid. But to be honest, they've already addressed this issue with the Pro version of these lights, and I kind of wish they would have done that from the get-go. Now, other little quirks is like this R2 transmitter, right? If I am within like 2 feet of this light, it won't fire. I don't really understand why, but you have to be like a certain distance away from it for it to fire. Now, once again, that's not a deal breaker because I'm never shooting right next to the light, but it was like whenever I first got the system and I was really just trying to figure it out and just kind of play with it, I'm like, man, are my batteries dead? Like, what's going on? And then sure enough, there's other people, that have already addressed the issue on YouTube. In all honesty, my biggest gripe about the system is actually the modeling light. It really just kind of sucks because you only get like 10 watts of power output and there's only 3 stages. And if you're on the power output number 3, the modeling light will only stay on for like 25-30 minutes unless there's like some heavy like ventilation inside of your studio. So it's one of those things where like the light is going to go out and sometimes you'll think something's wrong and then you're like, oh no, it's overheated again. Great. The lights that I have in my studio get like really hot and I like to turn them off, and my studio will basically be lit by just the modeling lights and then one little LED panel I'll have on the side just to help me focus. They've already addressed this issue with the Pro version of the light. It's something along the lines of like 38 watts and it'll stay on for a lot longer and it has a fan. I personally don't mind that this only has 3 levels of power output. I don't need 0 to 100%, but it is nice that they did add that in the new Pro feature. Now, talking about the speed light a little bit, I actually use the speed lights less than I do my own monolights. I don't ever put them in my hot shoe, only a couple of different times. I actually just use them just like regular monolights, and I'll put them inside of these little adapters to have the Bowens S mount. And they have a lot of power output for their size. And I think having the lithium battery inside of there is a huge game changer because you can go shooting for like days on end without having to swap batteries. Now, the last thing I'm going to point out is actually not a quirk. I just want to reiterate that this is not a flaw with the system. But if you get one of these systems and the mount is like this and it's loose, they actually intentionally did that from Flashpoint. So it's what's going on is I guess there's a lot of different variations of, like the Bowens S mount and how large the flanges are. So they actually made the mount intentionally loose so that it can fit all these different variations of it. Now, that's kind of, it's not a problem. Modifier has never fallen out of there, and I 100% trust it, but it is just kind of clunky to, hear that on a $750 light. So, do I think that this is still a good system to invest in? Absolutely. If you're coming ground up and you're starting fresh with new photography monolights and stuff, if you don't mind paying a little extra premium price tag, I would probably go ahead and get the Pro version of this light because it addresses all of the quirky issues that we have with these lights. Does that mean that this light is obsolete and not a good light? By no means. As a matter of fact, I actually plan on keeping both of these lights, and eventually I will probably get 2 more of those Pro versions, and these will probably be strictly for like outdoor use and kind of for like the whole sports photography scene. Even if you don't want to invest into the entire system, I still think that these speed lights right here are light years ahead of the other ones out there on the market. I still own a Sony HVL F60M, which was, I think it still is, their like flagship speed light. This absolutely blows it away because of the battery that's on the inside. I get so much more light output, and just time with it without having to swap batteries, and it's a game changer. It's also just so much more simple to use. And with the transmitter here, once again, it's a very easy transmitter. It just has a little quirky things with the whole like menu navigation system, but I still highly recommend this entire system. If you guys have any questions about it, please feel free to comment down below or shoot me a message. I will get back with you all right? So guys, thanks for watching this video. I truly appreciate it. Please be sure to like the video, subscribe to my YouTube channel if you have not, because once again, I'm releasing one photography or video related video every week here on YouTube, okay guys? So get out there, start shooting, tag me in your work so I can see what you're working on, alright? Have fun. My name's Lane McCall.